Hey everybody, Bobby Medina here with my very dear friend and good buddy Paul Barron. And today we have a wonderful trumpet player that's our guest here. He has studied at the Musical Conservatory of Caracas, Venezuela, Jose Angel Lamas. He is the former principal trumpet player of the Venezuela Philharmonic. He is currently a New York based professional musician, of course, and he has played in all sorts of different settings. Of course, playing some big shows out there, musicals I'm talking about, like Moving Out, the Billy Joel musical, In the Heights, Book of Mormon, and many, many others. He's played with some tremendous big bands and Latin and jazz projects for people like Michel Camilo, Christian McBride, the great Johnny Pacheco, Olga Tanon, Tito Puente Jr., and his list goes on forever. So I'm just going to say welcome here, Raul Agraz. It's a pleasure to have you here.
And thank you so much, you and Paul. I mean, for the invitation. This is quite an honor for me to be here. This is a big community, so I'm very happy to be here. Thanks so
Well,
much.
good. We feel like a lot more people need to know who you are and a little bit more about your background. So I'll let Paul throw out the first question.
All right,
Sure.
Raul, thanks for being here. I always love to ask this question to players like yourself that I really respect and enjoy their playing. So the question is, was there any one moment where you had like a light switch moment, something just clicked, or that aha moment where just one thing took your playing from here to here almost immediately?
Well, I'm always, I've been a advocate of practice, and I remember when I started with the trumpet, when I turned 9 years old, and uh, and I remember the first time I picked up the trumpet, I really had like the I don't know how to say, the capacity to play high notes. So and I remember the first note that I played was a high double G, something like that. And my teacher back then, was impressed because he was teaching another kids at the same age, and he noticed that with me. So he started, well, now that you can do that, now we need to learn how to, you know, to play the trumpet, because at that age, getting the opportunity to have those notes, you just wanted to play in that register all the time, trying to compete with the other little kids,
Sure.
So, yeah. So I believe uh, when I start probably now when I turn 14, 15 years old, is that when I start practicing correctly, and I believe that the capacity to play the high register probably helped me later on to probably build, my, I guess, my or have opportunities, probably, for the future, I guess.
Well, that's cool. So tell us a little bit about your first musical influence when you were growing up in Venezuela. What was it like at that time, and what was the music situation or the schools that you learned in, or maybe about your teachers? Tell us a little bit about your beginnings.
Well, I started at 7 years old, in a choir, a very famous choir in a small and humble town in Venezuela. The name of the town is Villa de Cura. So in that town has a choir, and basically they just go through every school in the small village, the small town, to do audition for new singers, because that was from 7 years old until 16, when they need to get people pretty much every 2 years, every year. So when I turned seven, I tried that, but my mom didn't let me get into the school, because I was too, so little. So when I turned 9, I finally had the opportunity to join the choir, and I remember I started with a recorder, and that was my first instrument. That's how I learned to read music, because they had a really good method to teach little kids to learn how to play, how to read music. And the only instrument you were allowed to play at that moment was a recorder on B flat. So and I remember after the recorded, you have to choose what instrument you really wanted to play. And from the very beginning, I don't know, my first instrument always was a trumpet. Always, I mean, that's something that I always wanted to play. But they didn't have any trumpet back then, so the only instrument available was a French horn. And also, I don't know if you know this instrument, the Jennings, which is it's a E flat it's a B flat horn. I don't know if you guys know, this is a horn like goes, and the bell actually face this way. It's a small horn like this, E flat,
Like
and
a
the
small
bob is
Like a
baritone?
baritone, yeah, like a
like a
baritone,
baritone. Yes,
a
it's only flat,
euphonium kind of thing. Okay.
something like that. And that was my second horn after the French horn. So finally, the same year, the trumpet teacher who was at that moment teaching in the school, he said, "Well, Raul, I got this trumpet. It's a rotary valve trumpet, and it's on B flat." And so he let me use that trumpet for I don't remember for how long, probably for 2 or 3 years, you know. And I made so many mistakes when I was younger. I mean, I didn't have oil, and he told me because I was having some trouble, with the valves, and it wasn't the same as a E flat horn, which I was piston, and this one was rotary valve. And he said you need to put some oil, and by then I didn't know anything about trumpet oil. And I remember that I just grabbed regular oil, from the kitchen.
Oh,
That was the funny part of that. I mean, that trumpet never worked again.
and it smelled like a salad.
Exactly. So then, in between my mom and my dad, they were very poor, and we were very poor when we were kids. When I was a kid, and they just with a lot of sacrifice, they just put together some money, and when I made my first trip with this choir, I had the opportunity to buy a Yamaha trumpet, probably 1980, 1970, 74, 77. That's when I had the opportunity to have my first trumpet, It cost me, I remember it cost me $210, something like that. Back then it was a lot of money.
Yeah,
It was
absolutely.
a lot of money
And for a kid, anytime, that's a lot
for
of
a
money.
kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow. So I want to ask you about your move into musical theater. Were you doing musical theater work in Venezuela before you started touring and moving here?
Well, in Venezuela, I had the opportunity to do everything. I became like when I had the decision to move from Villa de Cura, my city, to Caracas, which is about 2.5 hours, probably 3 hours. So I made the decision to do the jump to Caracas. From the very beginning, I really wanted to play, classical music with the orchestra, and it's because my teacher always was trying to push me. You need to do this. You need to get into the orchestra. You need to do the auditions. And finally, when I got it, so. that wasn't the only thing that I was doing. I started working on the studio, especially on the jingle work, on the jingle work. And I remember the rehearsal from the Philharmonic was at 8 a.m. in the morning, because I was the only time available for that orchestra to rehearse. It was from 8 a.m. in the morning to 11 a.m. in the morning. And the concerts were on Thursday night. So, so what happened is that the rest of the days, I was pretty much all day on studio, doing jingles or doing, I don't know, any album for somebody. Or back then, the industry was, you know, very heavy, busy back then. Um, so, and I used to do work work on any type of any kind of style of music, not only the classical, not only the jingle. I mean, every kind of music, every type of music, And of course, you never know what you're gonna get into the studio when you get a phone call to do a session that day. And I believe that was a really good score for me, because I had the opportunity to at a very early age, have the opportunity to play in most different style of music, which is which is I mean, it's not easy these days. I mean, you come doing this or do that or this or jazz or this or that. I mean, in Venezuela, we basically you have to play everything. You have to do everything. So, in about theater, I never did theater in Venezuela, because that wasn't something like Broadway, or like Ost Broadway. No, it wasn't nothing like that. So I heard now that they're trying to do that, implementing some, you know, Broadway type of Broadway shows with some musicians, a couple of musicians there in the orchestra. But back then, when I was living in Venezuela, no, that wasn't part of the the whole music scene. You know.
Sure. Well,
Well, let
let's
me.
shift gears. I'm sorry, Bobby. I was going to move to In the Heights,
Okay.
and that's where I first became aware of your playing, because I had to play your solos every night on the road for 2 years.
Oh man, I
So,
wish.
so tell me about that. I know that within the Heights, you started right from the very first reading, and
Yeah,
you can tell us about the movie that's coming out soon as well.
yeah. Well, yeah. I heard the movie is coming out in June 11th. That's the word. It was supposed to be last year, in the summer of the last year, but the whole quarantine thing, stop everything for
Sure.
everybody, as you guys know. Yes, I started from the very very beginning with Alex Lacamore in 2006, I believe. That was the Oz Broadway run, and it was only one trumpet, one reed player, and the rest of the orchestra was the same. I mean, drums, percussion, bass, guitar, two keyboards, and that was it. No
So
trombone.
no trombone. Okay.
No trombone. Yeah, it was only one trumpet, one reed player. Of course, I have to play the piccolo, flugelhorn, and trumpet, and the reed player was playing baritone, alto, soprano, clarinet, flute. So it was a kind of difficult show, because there was you that know that show is a pretty much you coming from the very low of the trumpet. You have to play the trombone parts, and then in the same tune you have to play in the middle, and by the end of the chart you're playing double high G's or something like that. And it's a pretty much three octaves show through the whole run, and you probably remember that. So
I have
yeah,
nightmares about that.
yeah. And not only that, you have to improvise. You have to, and it's only one trumpet. I mean, yeah, you are very exposed. I mean, every time you made a mistake or made a clam, I mean, everybody's gonna hear that, you know. So it was a good experience, you know, that the off Broadway run, and when we made the jump to Broadway, when I got the opportunity to do the show in Broadway. So it was a different situation because I remember Alex asked me to recommend a couple of guys to play the style of music. So in I recommend a couple of guys, you know, and I finally had the opportunity to have two trombones, two trumpets, two saxophones, you know, playing multiple instruments. And I remember the brother was two percussionists, one drummer, bass and guitar, and two keyboard players, including the conductor, the MD. So it was a much easier, um, I could say, probably run. You know, when you have the opportunity to play with somebody else next to you is easier than when you have to play the same kind of music with only yourself. So that helps a lot, you know. And the movie is pretty much the same. I mean, the orchestration is the same. We added another trumpet. We recorded with three trumpets on the movie. The rest of the band was two trombones and two reed players. The only extra was the extra trumpet player.
Well, that'll
So
be interesting to hear, yeah, because we
yeah,
only ever had one trumpet on the road as well.
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So it's actually it sounds pretty good. I heard something they you know, when they finish the mix, and it sounds really good. So I heard they actually released the very first tune of the movie. The very first one is on Apple Apple Music, I believe. Yeah, you can listen to it right now.
Very cool.
Yeah, well, I had something I wanted to ask you because you have had, a very successful career in Venezuela prior to coming here. You had been playing all over the place, all types of bands, and you had mentioned as well you were Oscar DeLeon's musical director and touring all over the world and this and that. But I have Venezuelan friends as well, and I'm always interested in how they came here to America. So what brought you from your career that was steady and blooming over in Venezuela here to America?
Well, that's true. I mean, you know, the political always has to be there, you know. But we have to. I mean, that probably that was a reason why we have the desire, the opportunity to come to the United States, me and my wife and my daughters, uh, because the political situation was changing really fast. And when I was touring with Oscar, I remember I have so many Cuban friends, especially in Europe, and they told me, "Oh, you need to move because I mean, we had the same situation in Cuba 50 years ago, and Venezuela is becoming the next Cuba. So,
Wow.
and you know, and I believe we did it right on time because as soon as we moved to New York from Caracas, we noticed that the change that my country became. You know, I mean, it's a totally different country right now. So every time I speak with my mom or my sister, I still have my mom and my sister and my dad living in Venezuela. And you know, my whole family is the same with my wife. Every time we spoke with them, you know, is I mean, every day is different. I mean, but it's getting worse and worse and worse and worse. Right now, the whole COVID situation, I mean, they don't have any vaccines. If you get a vaccine, is is very, very expensive to get one. So, and the people, they're not making money. I mean, it became a really, really poor country. I mean, it's sad to say this, but Venezuela used to be the richest country in South America. It used to be, like the little Venetia, they used to call it like that.
Yeah.
So now it's sad to say my country, in these conditions.
I mean, I've seen videos of people, when it was changing over to this with like wheelbarrows full of money that was worth hardly anything because of the devaluation going on over there and things like that. But
And right now, just $1 is about 300 million, something like that. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, it's insane. It's insane.
wow.
I mean, and they try to incorporate the dollar, but there is no dollars in Venezuela. So everything. If you go to buy something, that's what I hear from my mom and family living there. If you want to buy something, I mean, they ask you for dollars. It's gonna cost you $2, $3, and my mom said, "But I don't have dollars. How I'm gonna buy? How I'm gonna pay you if I don't have any dollars with me?" So I mean, it's a disaster. It's a totally disaster right now. Hopefully, you know, something happened, but when that happens, it's gonna take probably more than 10 or 20 years to fix the country again. It's not gonna be overnight fixing. It's gonna take a while.
Yeah, I really feel for everybody down there, and people that don't travel much. I mean, fortunately for a lot of us, we've been able to travel the world a lot. I've up until COVID hit, I've just not only toured and played and this and that, but I've also just taken trips with my family and been to different places. Just for the fun of it, just to understand more about the world and get to know it. But the more you get to know it, and there are some beautiful places all over. I really like a lot of things from a lot of areas,
Yeah.
but I think Americans here, I think sometimes we take for granted what we have here, and
Yeah.
until you come from another place like that. Like I have family in Mexico, so they have their own set of issues down there as well. I have some very dear friends from Argentina, another place, devaluation, lots of money, economic problems and stuff. And we don't always, I mean, we have our problems here, don't get me wrong,
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
they sometimes they're kind of minor compared to some of these other countries, But I didn't want to make this political, but I can understand why people like somebody like you would want to move over here, get away from it and have a successful career.
Yeah, we just did it just in time. Just in time.
Now, have you been able to travel back there, or that's
I did after for a couple of times. Then my mom said, son, you should stay there. You never. I mean, trying to not come, as often as you can because the situation here is not easy. Not only the political situation, the criminality right now there is insane. I mean,
yeah, I've heard
know,
that from my friends.
yeah, it's really, really, really bad. Because of the whole economic situation.
Yes.
People- yeah.
Well, I hope you guys don't mind. I'm going to shift gears just for a minute to your album Between Brothers, Raul. I told you before we started recording our interview that I've got it on a constant rotation, and
Oh,
so I play it in the car. I play
thank
it
you
if
so
I'm out
much.
for a long walk. It comes up on my phone all the time, and I love it. And I understand you have another one in the works, but
Yeah, it's
so
working.
let's start talking about Between Brothers. And I'm curious, did you record that all in a studio? Did you do some of it remotely? All of that was before COVID, of course. So,
Yeah, that
what's your
I just started working on Between Brothers in 2000, early 2015, and in the beginning when I started working on the album, I wasn't expecting have a CD to compete with anybody. or to put it on sale. I mean, the whole idea for me was to do something to leave it to my daughters, for my granddaughter, and for them to show to my granddaughters, and
So you leave some legacy here
it's something
of
like that.
what you did. Yes.
Exactly. That's the word. That's the right word. So, and when I started working on the album, I always had Paquito on mind to be part of the CD, because I did many stuff with Paquito when I moved from Venezuela. When I started
And you're
working.
talking about Paquito de Rivera, right?
Paquito
From
de Rivera,
the
yeah,
sax player, clarinetist from Cuba.
the,
Yeah.
the great Paquito de Rivera. So I remember we were doing the Bebo Valdez album, Bebo de Cuba. And I asked Paquito, I'm thinking about to do something. So and I would like to, I mean, the possibility to you, I mean, if you can participate on the album, I said, anytime, just let me know when you're gonna, I mean, when you finish, and definitely I do it. So when I started in 2015, uh, the first tune that I had for the album was Between Brother, and that wasn't a composition from a good friend from Cuba, and his name is Luis Papo Marquez. He's another trumpet player, great trumpet player in a great arrangement. And I remember that I posted something on Facebook, and he called me right away and said, "Raul, I have a tune for you." So and this is a great tune that Paquito might like, and I'm thinking about to use a vibraphone, a vibe on the tune, and I say, well, I know Dave Samuels. I mean, I can try to reach him, so I called Dave Samuels as well before he passed. I had the fortune to get him on to do this tune before he passed, and that was the very first tune that I recorded with the great Paquito de Rivera and Dave Samuels, and that's the reason why I named the album Between Brothers, because the name of the tune was that one, and I was basically working with friends, with brothers. I called every one of them, and everybody says, "Yeah, definitely. Just send me the track, and I do it for you." And the only one who actually recorded on remote was Dave Samuels. He said, "Just send me the track, and I record it at home." And he recorded the track, and he played like a 4 solos, and just use whatever you want. Just don't worry. I'm happy with whatever you
Do
choose.
your thing.
Do your thing. So so I mean, I feel very fortunate to have those two monsters, so on my first album as a solist. So as I said before, I never thought about to publish this album. I mean, I always thought about to leave a legacy to my daughters. But then a good friend of mine asked me, Raul, I really like your album. I showed it to them, and he said, well, I have a friend in San Diego or San Francisco, and I'm gonna show your album to him to see the opportunity. I mean, if they like the album, so he showed the album to this label, and they called me right away. So they say, man, I'm we really love to publish your album. I mean, if you really want it, and I said, yeah, definitely. I mean, I never thought about it, because I was thinking. I remember that I told from my mom, should I do my own label to do this on my own, and I did a lot on my own, I pretty much uh, uh, how you call it, work with public. I mean, trying to publish my music, trying to work with ASCAP, trying to put my music in ASCAP,
Hmm.
and I mean, that's a very long process. You probably know that, Bobby, because it's not an easy, a process to do. So, and they actually offered me a really good deal to do the projection of the album. I mean, to sell the
The
album,
distribution of it.
distribution, exactly. And what is my surprise that my album got the nomination in 2016 for the Latin Grammy. And it was, I mean, I was more than happy. I never thought about it. I always, as I said in the beginning, I mean, that wasn't the whole point. The whole point was to do this and just leave it, as a legacy. And when I got the nomination, I mean, I said, okay, that's something probably that I'm gonna continue doing, because, and that's the reason why I started last year. I say, I mean, it haven't been easy. It's hard to record remote sometimes, but I have half of the album already done. So I mean, I'm still working on. It's a long process.
Yeah, it's a working project.
It's a working project.
I
Yes.
mean, processed. Yeah.
And musically, what is this a lot of Latin music as well, or are you
It
taking
has
different?
everything. It's pretty much the same style of the Between Brothers.
Uh-huh.
So I have a couple of ballads, a couple of big bands, a couple of easy listen. I'm trying to do a one. I'm not considering myself a jazz player, but I can improvise. I can follow chord changes, but I don't consider myself a jazz player. That's something that I always, uh, feel bad at myself because I never thought about it. Now that I'm doing this, I just start practicing and listening to more music. Even that when I was younger, I was a big fan of Clifford Brown, Lee Morgan, Mike Davis. Every great trumpet player, Louis Armstrong, uh, Lou Soloff, for example. So I was a huge fan of them. But that's something that I never, click on me to try to emulate or practice. I always there, but never did it click for me to, become a jazz player or improviser. I know that I can do it. I can improvise, but I don't consider myself a jazz player. I just play from the heart, which is I guess is important as well.
Well, I
Absolutely.
wonder if you're like me, because you said that early on you had a certain natural ability to play high, and I'm not claiming that I did myself, but I started quite young, as did you. So if you were like me, or maybe you weren't, I don't know, but I always kind of played first trumpet. So the jazz duties were left for the second player or the fourth player in a big band.
Yeah.
So, we always had to do the lifting, you
Yeah,
know.
and you're right. And you know something, because that's something that I heard when I was younger. Uh, if you're gonna play the lead trumpet, it's gonna be the lead trumpet. It's gonna be somebody else playing the jazz solos, or even the second trumpet, or the fourth trumpet, or third trumpet. Whoever's had the ability to play the jazz solo. And I grew up with that type of mindset until I moved to New York. When I moved to New York, I noticed that every lead trumpet player can play jazz. And I felt so, wow, check this out. So now, okay, now it's time to practice. Now it's time to get involved in this. I mean, I need to do this. I need to do this. And now I'm really enjoying it.
That's
And
fun.
yeah, that made the click.
Yeah.
So when I was younger, that wasn't my mindset. My mindset was just playing the first trumpet, and somebody is gonna take care of that.
Yeah. Same for me. Yeah.
Yeah, and now even if I'm playing leading a big band here, and I know there is somebody who's really played jazz. I won't play jazz. I won't play a solo. You know, I always, you know, this is you. You should play this. I mean, this you're the right guy for this. I mean, I still, you know, it's like when you're learning a language. You know, I remember when I moved to New York. I was not that I can speak perfectly English, but I wasn't speaking at all. You know, I learned in the process. You know, when I little by little. I've been here for 22 years already, 22 or 23 years already in New York. So, and I learned English in the street. I remember when I started moving out, I was the only guy who speak Spanish. I mean, everybody else was a North American musician, and none of them can speak one word in Spanish. So I was forced to learn the language, you know, with them. So, and of course, in the beginning, I was afraid to say anything because I know they're gonna laugh at me or they're gonna you know make fun of me or whatever. So, and I feel the same sometimes when I'm playing in a big band and I have to play jazz solo. I have the same feeling sometimes, you know. It depends who's next to me. Because if I'm next to really good friends, really good musicians, I mean, I okay, I'm gonna do it. But if I don't feel comfortable, definitely I'm gonna let the jazz play the jazz solo to somebody else who's gonna play, you know. And I know it's gonna sound way better than me. That's
Well,
my
we all have our strengths and weaknesses, right? But
yeah, exactly.
it's nice to be well-rounded. You know, but
Yeah,
you were talking about the mental thing, so just briefly, I was thinking, you know, so just mentally, tell us, I mean, explain to us maybe a little bit about your approach to playing, you know, when I mean, because you like you were talking, you play everything. I mean, it's you have something equally as rare as the jazz in that you've played, you know, principal trumpet for a symphony orchestra, you know, and you've been lead trumpet player on salsa bands and big shows and pop things and all that. So you have something that's equally, you know, spectacular. So in order to be able to do all that stuff, what is kind of your approach in a nutshell?
well, since I started doing, well, I'm gonna start from the beginning. When I was younger, I remember that for me, the time to uh, recover, it was easier. You know, for instance, I remember that I was in the studio the whole day and starting rehearsing, then recording until probably 1 a.m. in the morning. And then I have to get up at 7 to do a little warm up to start with the orchestra with a different mouthpiece. And I noticed that, you know, it was really fast the recovery. You know, it didn't require for me to think about too much about my chops and you know endurance. You know, I already had that, but that's something that happened when you're younger. I mean, you definitely recover faster than right now. I'm already I'm 53 years old, and in my whole philosophy is when if I work really hard the day before, now what I'm gonna try to do is trying to fix whatever I did wrong the night before or the day before. So in trying to wipe out, you know, wipe everything that I did wrong that day. And if I, because when I remember when I was doing in the Heights, I used to practice a lot early in the day. I mean, and probably I start like at 9 a.m. in the morning, and I just probably have a shower, a quick shower before taking my car to the city to be ready to play the show every day at 7 p.m. So I overdid it. I overdid it way too much. You know, practicing during the day and doing sessions, recording here at home, or just practicing. You know, by the time I finish the show, I start noticing that I was hurting myself. I was feeling, inflamed. And then the day after, I was trying to continue with the same routine, and I was feeling little by little, more tired, more like I can't get the sound that I really wanted. That's when you start having some trouble. So, and now, uh, when this whole situation with the quarantine, the COVID thing, I actually stopped. I stopped in March when I remember Broadway closed in March 12th. And the last session that I did was in March 11th for In the Heights. That was the last session for that year. So we couldn't record at all after that. I mean, everything was closed. But so I made the decision. You know what? I need a break. I need a rest. I need to rest because I another thing that I was using a very small mouthpiece, and I always wanted to come back to my old setup, which is around a 3 ring, and I was using like a 10. And but I couldn't because I was busy working. I didn't want to compromise the show. I didn't want to compromise every other thing that I was doing at that moment. So, and that happened when you change mouthpiece. I mean, you can compromise a lot, especially when somebody is expecting something from you to be right every time you play. I mean, you can say no. I'm changing mouthpiece. I mean, I'm sorry, I can't play today because I mean,
Yeah.
you can't do that.
No.
No.
So when all this situation happened, we were forced to be at home, and that's what I did. I mean, I stopped playing for about probably 3 weeks, and then after 3 weeks, I start from the very beginning. I mean, all fundamental, everything that I remember when I was younger. Okay, I wanted to fix this. I think this is something that I need to do. Uh, um, I do a lot of Caruso. I do the Adam routine. I follow Bobby Shu lessons as well. I remember that I was moving out in 19, I'm sorry, in 2004, and I was in LA for about 9 weeks, and I called Bobby. Bobby, I having this trouble with playing the show every day. Sometimes I feel like I can do this, I can do that. So I said, well, come over. So I rented a car and I went to his house for probably 4 or 5 lessons. So, and he fixed a lot of stuff, because, that's, that guy is a genius. I mean, he
He
knows,
is.
he knows right away when you're doing something wrong. I mean, and he totally made a diagnostic for me. I said, well, you need to do this. You probably, uh, overworking your muscles, and you need to find a way to relax the way that you play. So basically what I'm doing right now is trying to learn myself again, little by little, how to trying to build a really good routine, a good warm up, and trying to be consistent on doing pretty much. I'm trying to not do the same thing every day because I don't want my muscles to feel accustomed to that, to do the same every day. Because we already play everything the same every day when you're doing a show, especially if we're doing a Broadway show, you have to play the music every day, so you know what you need to warm up to be ready to play the show, right? But I don't want to get those muscles to just to get accustomed to do that, to only that. I want to be able to do some, a little bit of classical music. I play my C trumpet pretty much every day. I pick up the piccolo and play for about 40 minutes of the piccolo, and then I rest, and then come back with the flugelhorn, then some time with the trumpet, and that's what I'm trying to do during the day. I used to start early. I used to start practicing around probably 8:30, 9 in the morning, And sometimes it's 5 or 6, and I'm still, in front of the TV playing something. And if I something that I heard, oh, I want to do this, I want to practice. So, I mean, it's hard for me because it's like an addiction. So
It's either that or it's like handcuffs.
yeah, it's an addiction, and I feel when I'm not
We're addicted to
practicing,
handcuffs.
yeah, that's what it is. So we are
Slaves. We're
related
slaves to the trumpet.
to the trumpet. Yeah, totally. So that's what I'm doing basically. I'm working a lot on fundamentals, uh, flexibility, staccato, trying to claim my sound. That's
Hmm.
basically what I'm doing
I
right
see
now.
your lead pipe in the back there.
I
Um,
have, yeah, this is one trumpet here. There's another one here.
yeah, very cool. Well, listen, Raul, I know we're just about out of time here, so I want to ask you one last question, and I'd like for you to can you give our members here just some kind of special tip that will improve something in their playing? What can you share with us?
For one special thing, we are our own teachers. We need to get to know our own body. So, when you feel that you're not doing something right, or you've been practicing the same and you can improve, just try to get help to somebody else. So I'm thinking about the call again, Bobby, or even you, Paul, or you, Bobby. So I believe that uh, we can learn from each other. You know,
Absolutely.
yeah. So that's my advice, and of course practice. With moderation, and be honest with yourself when every time you practice. I mean, if you know you're not doing something right, just stop and think about it, and figure it out how to make it work. You know, and sometimes just take it easy. Play it slow, softer, and try to not kill your child yourself, and get to know your own body. That's the most important, approach that I can probably advise to the younger students, youngest guy.
Well, even us old guys, it's important. It's
Yeah,
important to play at all volumes. It's important to vary and mix up your routine. Just like you said, I mean, Paul and I talk about this a lot. And too many people, at least for me, I have at times been locked into a routine, but I need to vary things just to keep up my technique, to keep it interesting in my own mind. And then when I do these things, you work your muscles in a different way, which all of a sudden, wow, the next day you feel like, oh man, I feel great. And so I
yeah,
think,
definitely helps a lot.
yeah. Well, Raul and Paul, thank you guys for being here. Raul, it's been a pleasure to speak with you, and it's really, really great to meet you. And I'm sure all of our members are going to love this interview. Be sure you chime in on this and tell us what you think about it, everybody.
Definitely. Thank you so much for the invitation. As I said before, it's an honor for me to be here. Uh, um, Trying to understand everything I said. My English is not the best one, but I was trying to do my best.
No, it
So
sounded great.
You were
and
fantastic. So when your new album comes out as well, give us a shout, and we'd love to have you
definitely,
back on and talk more about that
definitely,
as well.
definitely, definitely. Probably, I don't know. It's gonna be ready for this year because we're already on April, but I'm still working on it. I mean, it's a long process, and also we need money because we're not producing as we used to do a couple of years ago, with the whole quarantine situation. So,
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
yeah, we're hoping Broadway is gonna open again. I heard September, but you never know. And I've been doing a couple of sessions here at home, or I just finished a new movie. It's a uh, how you call it, animated movie.
Oh, okay.
So with Alice Lacamore, it's kind of the same groove in the highs. But I mean, I heard Gloria Stefan is involved in the production,
Wow.
singing as well. So I mean, it's gonna be a really good one. So,
Well, we'll
Trump,
keep our eye out for that. That's very cool.
well, thank you so much again for having me, and please continue doing this. I mean,
Yeah.
this is a really good, help for all trumpet player at the any age, at any age.
Well, thank you, and we love to share that. We're glad you're part of our group, and we always feel like when we talk, Paul and I, we feel like we're recording a certain kind of history here every time we talk to somebody, because you're a figure as well in this big world of trumpet, and it's just nice to learn from as many people as we can. So thanks again, guys, for being here, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, guys.